So now we move on to 2.1, which is information styles and what they're used for. Now, these are different than information formats because an information style such as text could then be formatted by using bullet points, or it could be bold or italic, or it could be underlined, or it could be put into a table. So the way that the text is formatted would then become the information format, but the style of the information, sometimes if you've done programming or you've done anything in databases, sometimes these are called data types. So these are things like, whether it's text or number or a picture or a video or so on. Okay, so you just need to make sure you don't get confused between your information formats and your information styles. So if we have a look, we can see here, okay, that one of the first and simplest styles of information or types of data is text. And this also includes different character sets. So if you've ever seen anything written in Russian, Arabic, Hebrew, they don't use Chinese, for example. They don't use the same character sets that we do. They have a completely different character set because they have a different alphabet. So these styles of information in terms of text can also include like the different character sets that exist. Another information style could be graphic, which can include photographs, images, anything that basically comes under the umbrella term of a graphic, including animated graphics. Video, that's another style of information, and especially things like subtitles on videos. Animated graphics, audio is a style of information. Now, if that was made into a podcast, then obviously the audio has been formatted and it's become a podcast. Numerical or numbers. Braille is another style of information. Tactile images. The example the exam board give us here is the ones that NASA use. So blind people can feel these images. They're 3D. And so they can get a kind of, mental picture of what this looks like, even though they can't actually see it. Subtitles we mentioned earlier on videos. They have another style of information. Boolean. Now, Boolean is just simply questions that can only be answered yes, no, or true, false. So Boolean is just the two choices, okay? It comes from a gentleman called James Boole, who was a mathematician. So Boolean is just simply true, false, yes, no. Now, if you go looking, you might find that some early web searches used to use another version of Boolean, and it was things like and, or, not. But that's not what this is relating to. This is just simply relating to a style of information that is either yes, no, true, false. There are only two possible answers. And tables and spreadsheets. Sorry, that should be on a row by itself. Tables and spreadsheets is another way that you can style your information. You can put it into a table, you can put it into a spreadsheet, and then you can create charts and graphs and visual representations of your information. Okay, so let's have a quick look at an exam question. Now, when you get the exam, about 6 weeks before the exam date, the exam board will release some pre-release material. And this, what you're looking at right now, is the pre-release material for a previous exam. And this was all about a company who dealt with imports and exports of dogs and the quarantines and all the paperwork that involved and the flights, etc. So you can see here they have given us in the pre-release material this extract from a database which contains the dog's name, the date of the flight, the airline, the destination, how many days it has to stay in quarantine, whether it's got its paperwork, etc. And the question relates to the dog travel arrangements database. And it's asking us, just for a mark, identify one field that is text information style. So if we go back and see, some of these are clearly numerical, or their date, numerical, true, false, because it's a tick or not a tick, so that will be Boolean. Quarantine, well, that's number again. This is date, but dog name, airline, destination, they're all clearly text. So if we look at the answers, we can see they've given us dog name, airline, destination as the three possible answers to that question. The next question then says, identify the information style used in a specific field, days, rabies. So let's go and have a look at days, rabies. Oh, look, seems to be date, time. So if we go to the answers, it tells us, well, it's numerical, or it could be number or integer, which is a whole number. And I personally think if you'd put day or date time, that would have also got you a mark because it is formatted as date, but they're also giving you marks for number or numerical. Okay, and then the third question here, which is 3 marks. Why have they used this information style, this numerical information style? Okay, and so we need to think about why. Well, why would you use a number, and why would you use maybe a date? So they're saying, well, it could be a calculated field. We could use it to work out, using a formula, something else in terms of, well, how long should they stay in quarantine after they get off the airplane, for example. So you can use that to calculate when 10 days have gone by. Okay, so it can also help us to show the number of days and any other reasonable suggestion based around this table, which we could perhaps suggest the reason, you know, the date of flight is in there. What could we do with that? How does that help us in terms of, you know, this particular situation with these dogs? So if you come up with a valid explanation that they haven't already mentioned in the answer here, then they will give you also a mark for that. If you see how the marks have been assigned, 1 mark for saying, well, it could be calculated, and then some little further explanation gets you the extra mark. So using the date or the dates of the flight or the dates of the rabies, that can help us to calculate how long they must stay in quarantine, or it gives us an answer in a number of days rather than just a random number. It also shows us the number of days and so on. So further explanation gets you the further 2 marks after you have said, you know, what it is about the information style that they were asking for. So that's information styles. Don't get it confused with information formats, because they're not the same, and nearly always the questions on these exams are around these database extracts.